Hey everyone, welcome to this episode of Let's Chat Live. I'm your host, Chris Revel. You join with me with our co-host, good friend, and co-host of the Dumb, the Dead Found podcast, woo woo, John. Today we Let's Chat Live is the podcast where we bring on the podcast that you should be listening to, and we get to learn all about their shows. And Bree's not here tonight, and I know she's driving, so she's probably not going to see this. So there's a great chance that we're gonna get a little out of hand. So we're tonight we have Dr. LondonSmith.com and Cameron from let's bring them on from the Jock Doc Podcast. Welcome everyone.
Boo, boo, boo. Hi.
Thank you. What is up?
Oh, well, thank you for joining us tonight. We were chatting a little bit before we started the show, and if you're ever wondering what four adults talk about prior to the podcast, it was laundry mostly, and how I how I messed it up. I thought I lost my shirt that I got from John's wonderful store, and I was so happy to wear it, and I thought I lost it. So more time wasted on laundry talk. So let's talk to our guest tonight instead. John, maybe you should run the show.
Don't give Bree any ideas, okay?
Yeah, I know.
She gonna call me about that.
John, Cameron, thanks for coming on. So your show is really funny, and like I was listening, I found it because it had a huge. I'm a huge fan of Scrubs, which I would only imagine that you're also.
Okay, yeah.
If you're doing this podcast and you're a doctor.
Yes, definitely. It's one of those inspirations.
It might seem like London's internet is really delayed, but it just takes him about 6 seconds to process everything.
Yeah, that's right. And that's what you want in a doctor. You want someone collapses and you're
takes their time. Okay, what? They're not in a rush. Yeah.
He's just kind of his like synapses. Well, I'm just sitting there,
going,
so.
Like one
finger to my head.
So can you tell us about your podcast? Because I could read off your wonderful press kit, but I don't want to butcher it. So I'll have you give us your little elevator pitch and tell us about your show.
Yeah, I also don't want to butcher it, so we'll see. But essentially, it's a medical education podcast is the premise, but it's an improvised comedy. So the way it started out, because we found it was hard to articulate the premise. For a while, but basically, I started out I was in medical school. I was listening to Comedy Bang Bang, which Cameron and I are both big fans of.
Yeah,
and,
same.
It's this character-based comedy. If you're unfamiliar, and so we would listen to that, and I would listen to that and feel guilty because I should be studying, obviously. But like I would work into my study breaks, and at the same time, so I'd have that guilt, and then I would also be looking for podcasts that like had just a quick summary of a given medical lesson that I wanted, like just something to that was kind of just quick and easy and gave you a brief summary. Because eventually, we are as students, as doctors, we can summarize a given thing pretty quickly, but it's I was looking for that. So this podcast is essentially kind of marrying the two ideas. It's primarily, it's an improvised comedy for very much the most part, but I throw in a sort of third-year medical student level medical lesson. So
yeah, we thought how could we combine Comedy Bang Bang with London's homework is essentially the premise of the podcast.
Yeah.
So this is just like a giant study group for doing improv and also studying at the same time, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a way to trick his friends into learning about his medical stuff. And it's worked so far.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
It has worked.
Is there some like deep-seated issue of like your friends and family don't believe you're a doctor, so you're like, I'm gonna prove it to you in the weirdest way possible?
I don't think this has helped in that regard. I mean, yes, to answer your question,
but the opposite.
But I don't think.
But there's no way that's the weirdest way possible.
That's fair.
No,
that is fair. That's fair.
No,
So
you
being-
have to start your
so
own
being a-
underground operations. For the
So being a
weirdest way.
medical student, where do you even find the time to start a podcast? Like I get that this is your way of trying to, use it as a study time, but podcasting takes a lot of time. So where do you find it
No.
as a
Yeah.
Yeah, where do you find the time pretty much?
Let me guess. Your producer, Cameron.
Well, for the first 2 years are the really strict scheduling and everything that I started this during my clinical rotations during my it was my third year, which is kind of like senior year in high school in a sense. Like you get to pick what you're doing and you're scheduled to some extent. So that's when I started, which whenever I knew I would have some wiggle room with timing. And so like a few times things came close. Like one time I was doing a clinical rotation with a plastic surgeon, and like we were putting these breast implants and stuff, and then I knew that I also had a scheduled recording for that evening, and I was like, okay. And I didn't want to ask to leave early. I was like, oh, really? And the timing just happened to work out just right. But for the most
you brought
part,
the breast implants with you.
that is not. Yeah, my hands were full of them, and I was just like, "Oh, sorry, guys,"
Just gotta go.
bursting out of my pockets. You know how it is. You know how it is.
So, ladies, your life not as important. I
yeah,
have a
that's-
podcast that I could easily reschedule. So, how do you two know each other?
Yeah. So that's,
we again, it takes London about 6 seconds. So we grew up together. We've known each other since we've known each other since we were like 12-ish. And
that's awesome.
kind of became good friends in high school and have just sort of maintained ever since. And London, and then a friend of ours, Cassie, who she is a frequent guest on the podcast, and her husband is the one who actually produces the show, who actually does all the editing and the cool music you hear in the show.
You guys have a lot of sound drops.
Oh yeah. That's
I was listening to your show. I was like, this sounds.
he's
like
amazing
A lot of
at it.
work.
DJ Dylan, who does all the editing and everything. That's his voice. It's the third host of the show. Is the insane amount of sound drops that are in the show.
Wow.
But yeah, we kind of all grew up together. Me, London, and Cassie, and always been interested in starting something comedic together, and writing sketches or whatever. And it's sort of Cassie and I had tried starting a podcast a long time ago, and then when London was living elsewhere off at medical school, and then it sort of just evolved into this when London had this idea, and it's been good ever since.
Wow. Since you guys mostly improvised show, have you ever thought about doing stand up someday, like going to like one of those improv shows and just doing a stand up comedian show?
I know
Briefly,
London
for a
has done. I know London, you've done improv a little bit. I haven't done any.
Yeah, I've done some improv shows.
Yeah, like I haven't done any stage stuff at all, and I don't know if I want to. I'm sure we'll do a live episode at some point, but in terms of like actually doing improv or stand up, that's terrifying.
That is.
You don't have DJ Dylan there to fix my mistakes,
Love that.
And then that's true. Although I will say, everything is edited afterwards. Oh, sorry, but everything is edited to some extent. But really, if you listen back after you're in the episode, we don't cut out. He doesn't cut out much. Like it's mostly you get almost the raw thing. It's just that extra stuff is put in.
Yeah.
So just to clarify, it is a scary amount of real for us.
Sure,
like,
yeah.
Sometimes I'll say like take that out, but for the most part, it really is genuine improv.
I love that you go. I mean, John, from his podcast, I know you do it with one of your childhood friends as well, and like it's we find that a lot. Like you just get to a certain age and like jobs and kids and life and doctor school for some of us, and like there's just no time, and like you have to like force yourself to have a project to actually see your friends. Like the only people I feel like I actually talk to anymore are the people I do podcast stuff with. Those are the majority of my conversations are like those people. Then my friends I've known forever, we don't do podcasts together. Like we'll send pleasantries every so often.
Yeah, and that was a major motivation even going into this. I mean, for years we've had just a group chat that we're constantly on, but we weren't actually seeing each other in person because Cassie and Dylan, they live sort of in East Texas, about 2 hours away. London used to live in Arkansas and went to school there and all those things. But it was like an easy way to actually see the people that you want to see, as opposed to, like all the people I see are just people at work.
Right.
So I live in Rhode Island. So when you said that they moved to East Texas, like that is growing up in the Northeast, that concept makes no sense to me. I'm like, wait, you could be far away and still be in the same state?
Oh, that's probably like a 40-minute drive for you, Revel. It'll take us like 4 hours.
If I go 2 hours, I could be in Maine easily.
We'll still be in Texas.
I literally, it throws me for such a loop. Yeah, they move far away. Like if I said like someone went to like South Rhode Island, I'd be like, oh, okay. So
I'll bike there later.
I'll drive 10 minutes later, but I know it's such an interesting concept. But I love that because it's true. It's such a great way to keep in touch with people. And the thing I liked about your podcast a lot too, like the second you guys said Comedy Bang Bang, I'm like, okay, now these guys make sense. You're part of my, like, I get it now. That's totally one of our other podcasts that I had started that became before this was Let's Chat with Chris Revel. And I remember one of the first times I had interviewed someone who was on Comedy Bang Bang, and I was like, oh my God, I fucking made it. I talked to Sean Clemens. He was like on a handful of times.
Oh, wow.
Like,
yes.
Oh my God.
We're both huge Hollywood Handbook fans. So Sean Clemens, huge.
This is really, really strange story.
That's a big name drop for us.
I grew up in Connecticut, and my mom was working at a hospital at the time, and she was like talking to like her boss or something, and she was like, they were talking about their kids except for adults. And she's like, oh, my son has a podcast. And so I think my mom was like, oh, so does my son. She's like, oh, our son should meet. I was like, okay, whatever, Mom. And my mom's like, all right, so so-and-so's mother. She's like, his name's Sean Clemens, and he hosts Hollywood Handbook. You ever heard of that? I was like, yeah, Mom. And he was like writing for, so it was just that's so weird. So like we never met in Connecticut, but we're actually from one town over from each other. So it's just such a small world.
Oh.
And but like all that stuff. I remember that was like the big moment. I was like, oh my God, I can talk to someone who's in that earwolf of Seer. Do you ever listen to Comedy Bang Bang, John? Or I used to watch the show.
I have not actually. So this is something that I'm gonna look out for.
Dude, like, yeah, oh my God. I actually love to do this for all of you. What are your your comedy development? Like, what would you say are your influences like to help you to build your sense of humor? To quote Mark Maron, who you guys?
Who you guys? I'll wait for London's video to catch up.
I was gonna be like, what?
No, I think the audio is at least on track for me. For me, it's all going pretty smoothly here. So I'm glad you guys are pausing, but it's great on my end. Let's see. Okay, well, here's a little side note that most people don't know is I also grew up as a child actor. So my comedic influences, like I used to want to be Jim Carrey to some extent. Like that was the time of The Mask, Ace Ventura, and all that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and so I mean that was early on, and I wanted to always just be crazy, and then let's see, and then I mean. For the most part, for the last few years especially, we both got really hooked on Hollywood Handbook. That's, if I'm being honest, that's a lot of they have so many small jokes that I pull from a lot. But like all the Earwolf stuff, like and even Earwolf adjacent, like let's see, Bajillion Dollar Properties comes to mind. That was great. Going past that, you got all the state crowd that Michael Black, and
oh my God,
although I feel like I'm just going to be listing generic stuff. Children's Hospital, I watched a few months ago for the first time.
It's so crazy. David Wayne
like,
has
all of those
a clubhouse Sorry, David Wayne from the State has like a Clubhouse and YouTube show. It's like a piano bar show with Natalie Morales. I am totally gonna hang on to that and befriend him and then have him on my podcast. So,
that would be awesome.
Oh, please, yeah.
Do you get John? I'm curious too, John, because what are your early comedy?
Oh man, I'm going old school. Like, I'm sticking to my Asian peeps here, but Rex Navarrete, he's a stand-up comedian from San Francisco. He's one of my early influences. His skits were hilarious, and right now, of course, Joe Coy is like our only hope as far as Filipinos are concerned in the comedy scene. So really look up to him a lot. Yeah. But I mean, I'm going generic too. Like, I really love like Kevin Hart. I mean, I was a huge Cat Williams fan.
Oh,
so, like all the personal stuff that he was doing. What else? I'm a huge fan of the show Wild 'N Out. I know it's not strictly comedy based, but they do they do a lot of improv, and all those things that they do on the fly, just amazing. I can't even imagine. I know Cameron said he'd be frightened stage. I would have been the same thing. Like, I just freeze. Like, what the hell am I going to say now?
That's why we podcast.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of the stuff that we bonded over growing up and with Cassie as well, it was always like mostly sketch-based stuff. It was a lot of the Lonely Island. Lonely Island was like the biggest thing in the world when we were 14, I think, ish. Yeah. Like
the backseat.
Even as we got like in college, that sort of evolved into us all really being into like Good Neighbor stuff, like the Kyle Mooney, Beck Bennett, like that whole gang. And then
the Kyle
I don't know. I feel like
a favorite.
Yeah,
I feel like comedy.
Yeah, the like Donald Glover, Dom Hall, or
that was the first thing I ever watched on YouTube. Was Donald? The first thing the two videos I ever saw, first two YouTube videos. I was in college. We watched Lazy Sunday, and then someone showed us Bro Rape.
Yeah,
and like however many years ago, like, and all of those people went on to become like the most famous fucking people in the world.
Yeah,
sorry, Brie.
Yeah, Donald Glover is hilarious. Super talented.
Oh my God. Lazy Sunday, the Lonely Island dudes, like, oh my God. Like, my wife and I just did like our 7th rewatch of Brooklyn Nine-Nine. So we've been in like a real Andy Samberg mood.
Yeah.
And I've been going back and watching like I'm on a boat. Like or Dick in a Box. And all
Dick in a Box is just an all-time classic.
Oh my God. It's a cultural icon.
I've said for a while now that I think like every white guy's around me in London's ages heroes are Andy Samberg and Tony Hawk. And I keep asking people, are these your heroes? And people keep saying, yeah, kinda.
Yeah, you know what? As you said that, I'm 36. I'm like, yeah, okay. I like that.
That's about right. Like, I've never thought about Tony Hawk being a hero, but sure, he's a hero.
Yeah, of course. I remember watching him land the 900 and crying a little, even though I was like 7.
I just cried when he did the last 540. I'm like, this is the last time I'm ever going to see that.
Was
like, oh my God. Oh,
the end of a legacy. Oh my God.
You know what? Another one I should note. Is Three Amigos. I remember learning that I don't know, that style of humor where you don't have to, like, you can be dirty, but you also don't have to be dirty. And I like that's something our podcast has focused on is like I know pastors, and the fact that I can recommend our podcast to them and not be cringing, like that people who are not super tolerant of crude humor, usually ours is pretty okay. I don't know. Like I thought it was always a valuable thing to be able to be funny without being too crude. Like we throw stuff in here and there, and our guests will sometimes push the envelope, but that's like sort of a point that we try
hard
to watch.
PG-13.
It's like why Jim Gaffigan can play for the Pope because he's clean.
Yeah.
And somehow the funniest man who talks about pizza in a way I don't understand.
Oh yeah.
Who?
Jim Gaffigan.
Jim Gaffigan, yeah.
Oh right, yeah.
He's just one of those
Mr.
people.
Gaffigan, yeah, Mr.
I can't wait to go to the live
Mr. G.
Again. Mr. G. Yeah,
I would say that's why Cameron wouldn't recognize the name. It's Mr. to him.
Oh, it's Mr. G. That's so crazy. I love that. Oh yeah. One of the things I loved about listening to your show is I don't know if you ever listen to the podcast Blank Check with Griffin and David. Like it's a movie podcast, but like lots of bits and the comedians. Griffin, he's a comedy Newman guy. But you guys have the same level of commitment to your bits as they do, and that is something I'm a fan of. So I was like, oh yeah. Like, at first I was like, are they joking? And then you're like, oh. I guess it's like the first time anyone watches the Colbert Report before you knew it was satire. When it first started, you're like, is this a joke? And then you're like, certain people aren't getting it. And like, all right, you're not as smart as I am, and I get
it. And that's just how we've always sort of bantered with each other. Is that like
that's just conversation?
It's our personalities, but everything we're saying is just made up. You know what I mean? Like everything is based on, it's like has a little bit of truth and then it's spun off on 3 different rabbit holes till it's something else. You know what I mean?
Are you in doctor school too, Cameron?
Oh no, I'm a web developer, so I don't do any of that stuff.
That sounds hard as heck too.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. That sounds like there's numbers. Yep, can't even imagine doing that.
Yeah.
It's just you're on the
how many numbers
computer
you
all
got?
day. It's not.
You got? 6. I got 6 numbers.
Yeah, I deal with like 4 tops at a moment. Some in medical school, medical students are notorious for not wanting math. That's a pharmacist's job, is to want math.
It's true.
So you can hold 4 breast implants, and then that's it.
And still make it in time to record.
Why do you think I had to leave? That's
Oh,
why I had to leave. I was like,
and if London had to figure out removing one of those, that's math. He can't. That's
just throws
too
it
much.
out.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm throwing this out.
This guy. Oh my god, we're gonna have to come up with some sort of like system for points for jokes because we haven't had that yet. That was funny. That's funny. I feel like at the end of this, drlondonsmith.com should just get up with fake breasts. Like if we had planned this out, you just get up and just like
we'll see.
Nice to meet you.
Now I'm going to be self-conscious about how flat I am, but we'll see.
He's holding the bottom of his back because it makes his back hurt.
Where are those bags? Where are those bags of boobs? Yeah. I love that. Are there a lot of other medical comedy podcasts?
Not that I know of. It's kind of why I'm surprised we haven't kind of gained a little bit more. I mean, it's a thing where what my imagination for it is that people who are done with a long shift at work, at the clinic or hospital, whatever, that this is all there is out there that is relatable to the extent that the host is going to, like, I teach real enough medical lessons that they know something's legit about it, but they can relax because it's a joke. But no, I don't think there are any other comedy. I know there are a few other comedies, but it's not improv comedy character based as hardcore, I guess, as ours is.
Yeah,
I think they're mostly like interview based or whatever, right?
Yeah. I work at a hospital
or they'll talk
on my way home.
I mean, there's one called Sawbones, and that's a very famous medical comedy podcast. But I couldn't get very far into it because it was I don't know. To me, it wasn't improv comedy. Really good. It was kind of normal people making jokes, which is good. It's fine. A lot of people like it. It's just not what I searched for. Like,
it wasn't what you were looking for.
Yeah. I crave the comedy that we were talking about, like these very much children's hospital type, not Grey's Anatomy or not. Yeah,
I love Children's Hospital.
Yeah.
Have you experienced?
I adore it.
As far as we're talking about everyone's podcast journey here, pretty much. Have you guys ever hit a roadblock that you're just like, man, this is kind of not worth all the trouble? Like, has there ever been a breaking point within your show? Because you guys have been around for about almost 2 years now, going on.
Yeah. This summer we'll hit 2 years.
Yeah. Okay. Has there
comes out soon?
Oh, that's okay. Has there ever been like a breaking point where you're just like, man, this is a lot of work. This is rough.
The really fortunate thing for us is we all kind of fell into our roles, and especially the editing. The editing is the biggest thing that, like we have friends who this podcast called. the Truth Cast. They're friends of ours. They started about close to when we did, and they're fantastic. But I know like them and some of the other ones. In fact, a lot of the other. I've talked to a lot of the other podcasts, and a consistent thing is they want to edit because they know that they can add more comedy with the editing, but so they don't want to pay someone else to do it necessarily. But they don't finding someone to do that, fill that role is difficult. Whereas we kind of we just had it with Dylan. He likes to do this part specifically. He likes to play with the music, stuff that he wouldn't normally do. Like I've been very gentle and like whatever you want, and I don't want to be too much for you. But he's been great. And for us it's just it's been difficult in terms of finding guests, I guess, has been the hardest part. But at the worst, you have no guests for an episode. So I like the challenge the whole time. The hard part will be when I start residency, because I'm currently an unmatched MD. That's where I'm falling right now, which means that I have to try to pass some exams. I've one big exam in order to start residency, and that's when Scrub starts. For anyone wondering what that is, the show Scrubs, first episode of Scrubs is first day of residency. So I'm at the point where I finished med school, waiting to start residency, it's kind of the bottleneck in the whole system. So very competitive.
Okay.
When that starts, that's 80 to 100 hours a week. And then that's one of those problems that I'm aware will happen. I don't know how we'll deal with it, but hopefully we will.
Okay.
We'll figure it out.
I guess to answer your question, we haven't found it yet, I don't think.
Okay. What about you, Cameron? Have you felt any burnout whatsoever? I know it's a huge, especially you guys said you're coming up with almost 100 episodes. A lot of people can't even last past 10. So what's like the fuel? What's the fuel for you guys to keep going?
I think just wanting to hang out with each other is probably the biggest motivation. Because how we talk on the podcast is just exactly how we've always bantered when we go to a bar or wherever. So it was just, and I think that's probably the case for everyone, right? Isn't everyone like, this should be a podcast? Like that's always the reaction. But yeah, thankfully London handles pretty much most of like scheduling the social media posts and stuff like that. And then Dylan handling the editing. I kind of just show up, thankfully, because I'm lazy, I guess. But so it's just, we record either 1 or 2 episodes probably once a week. And it's not like this huge, gigantic commitment. Like I work full time and I'm able to balance both. And so far have not felt, a ton of burnout or struggle. I would say every once in a while coming up with new ideas, when we're trying to come up with a theme for an episode or something specific like that can be difficult. But we've kind of gotten to the point where even the stuff we used to plan, we just don't plan anymore. We just go with it and it works out.
Nah.
Yeah, that's like where the authenticity comes from, especially. Yeah. I don't know. We try to do the same thing on our show. Like we try to be as improv as much as we plan stuff, but at the end of the day, whatever comes out of our mouth is just, it is what it is, So I like that. I like the authenticity of that.
Yeah, your podcast is a comedy podcast about dead people. And
that's
yours
true.
Is a medical show, so it's kind of great that you're all. I feel some synergy here.
Yeah,
it's like passing the baton, so to speak.
Yeah.
Dr. London had to wait 6 seconds.
Whenever we screwed up,
died. And then John came in and made
worth it.
John and Patrick.
One thing I should add about so Cameron's rolling it. So our first episode, he was busy buying a house. He was very stressed and anxious about it. Most of what we had was the idea to meet over in East Texas, all the way in East Texas. And we were going to record. It was just like, bring whatever recording stuff you have. We'll see what we have. And I didn't know anything about how to go about recording. And whenever we got there, and I've been talking with our friend Cassie, with Dylan, with everyone over group chat, saying we were bouncing ideas off each other. Oh, we'll do this bit. We'll do this. when we started, like 20 minutes before recording, Cameron was like, "So I've been busy. I haven't looked at the chat. What are we doing?" And so to Cameron's credit, that's how good he is at this. Is he can show up, and then I just told him, "You're being dumb, and you're the producer," because I wanted a reason why this doctor had to, like, bend to the will of the dumb guy chiming in.
I'm the heel
and,
who's always trying to get in.
Yeah,
there.
it's his equipment that was a big thing in it. He's the one who's making this happen on a technical level. So so we did that, and then like I was playing the straight man, so first we recorded 2 episodes in a row, and I was just amazed that it was so good. And that's when I was like, oh, I guess we should actually try at this.
Wow. I mean, you don't hear that from a lot of shows, Rebel. I mean, I know you've talked to a lot of podcasters before.
No, never.
The first like 5 to 10 episodes is shaky at best, but the fact that you came out and said like, "Hey, this is good stuff."
Yeah.
No, first episode is still one of our best, I think.
It was definitely us finding our footing, finding our characters, figuring out like what's going to be recurring and stuff like that. So it's kind of different than the ones we have now, but not really. Like we kind of came up with a simple format at the very beginning, and we stick with that very basic format, and then everything in like each of those stages of the podcast is improvised.
So you're like part podcast, part comedy troupe.
Yeah, I guess.
Actually, no, yeah, definitely. Because you're making it, and like my co-host when I started quit within the first 20 episodes, and it was in 2013, and I just plowed ahead without him. But I can't believe that even you, John, that you could find like the fact that you met someone who wanted to do this thing with you and was equally committed. It took me until I teamed up with Bree last year to finally find like someone I would trust or want to work with. So I give you all a lot of credit for doing that. That's makes me both happy, jealous, a little envious, and then a little bit like, how do you give up control? Yeah. That must be so nice.
I'm jealous that you guys have an editor, so I'm gonna just tell you that.
Yeah.
You've just gotta have the same friends for like 18 years, and then just happen to want to do the exact same thing. It's easy.
Yeah,
none of my friends wanted to.
Yeah, and to always be bouncing these ideas off each other anyway, regardless.
Yeah,
and then and especially have one of those. Have the third friend in your close friend group marry a guy who's already does a lot of editing work, who does a lot of video editing, so that's not a hard transition. Easy stuff. Already has the sound equipment. And
then you're also funny.
A big fan of Tim and Eric. Yeah. Oh, he's
yeah.
Like
he's your show, it's like
so
you had all the pieces together of like you had the people committed, but then you're also all like funny and talented. Like it's kind of crazy that all came together.
Yeah,
we're jealous, is what we're saying. Like,
I mean, it's
pretty much.
It's really difficult to come up with ways to basically just make fun of London, which is that's about like 75% of my job.
That's most, which is what
and
I also like. I thrive on that. Yeah.
So Cameron's definitely
we all
the
thrive
group.
on that.
Yeah. I'm like my character, my like guy is sort of an exaggerated version of me, a dumber version of me, or dumber, I hope, who is sort of just interjects himself constantly, kind of constantly wants the center of attention while being like really stupid and making terrible decisions. And so whereas Dr. London is more, he's the straight man, he's the doctor, he tolerates Cameron's antics, but he's going to tell him like why what he's doing is so stupid. And
that's amazing. And just hearing you guys talk about your show, and this is a lot of the problems that a lot of the newer podcasters experience, is a lot of them don't know what their identity of their show is. Like they just record and it's like it's just blank space pretty much. But you guys are sticking to what's working, and that's really awesome to hear.
That was something that we had noticed really early on. I mean, London, you had brought up specifically going through sort of similar newer episodes. You know, London was doing a lot of work just like on Reddit, trying to find like people to guest on the show and stuff like that. And a lot of the other shows London was coming across were just people, like you were saying, they're figuring it out on the show. So the first 10 episodes are them just being like, okay, so what's up, this?
Guys?
Yeah.
Whereas like we sat with that before that first episode and was like, just because we didn't know how to start or didn't know how to do it, we were kind of like, okay, let's pick a format that we're going to do. So we're at the top, we're going to have a little intro, and then we're going to do a fake sponsor as the second part where we pretend we have an ad from a fake company. Then we have the medical lesson, then the guest, like we like split up everything into a way that made sense, and it worked. And so like I'm not like a super structured person like that. London is, or at least definitely more so than me. And I feel like that has benefited the show more than anything, is that we actually like planned ahead at the very beginning and just stuck with it.
Yeah. So it's like organized chaos pretty much in a good way.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's how I plan my vacations too. You just
hey, that's how you got to do it.
Yeah. You start out, you have a plan, and it's great if it goes off the plan, but you want to have the plan to start out. I know it's improv, and so it's like so you don't want to say like we plan anything, but of course my whatever, like first episode I knew that Cassie was going to be a character, and I was like, oh, I don't know if that'll really work. And then of course that's how the show runs. So it's also been a matter of trusting each other to be whatever style of comedy. Everyone has their own flavor and they bring it in, and I'd like to think that each of us bring such a different thing to it that there's appeal for more people than just whoever likes my jokes or whoever likes Cameron's, so or DJ Dylan's.
How did you go about finding your fan base? Just throwing it out there and see what happens? Were you organized in your marketing planning? If you say yes,
Twitter,
I'd be so jealous.
I mean, no, like it's been mostly Twitter. You go on there and you search for who's looking for a podcast. That's originally, that's how we built it from the start. I think that's how most of our listeners came about. Then again, we also have a lot of Dallas-based listeners, so I know it's not just whoever was on Twitter, unless everyone on Twitter is in Texas. So
state.
It's so I know I guess that's the main way. Like we tried paying for a few advertisements, but nothing seemed very effective. So aside from that, it's been guesting on other podcasts. We love to try new characters. In fact, next week we're recording again with this one called Apocalypse Tips with Lester Pips. They're based in LA. So we're excited about that. We usually try to do a sort of a duo character thing where we bounce off each other with whatever ideas. So that's, to me, the best advertisement based on my listening to Comedy Bang Bang is whoever was funny on that show. I'm going to be trying to find out how to listen to more of them.
Yep.
Yeah. Do you use the hashtag Potter and Family?
I probably should. I've seen it.
Works. It's been around for a while. It had more influence, I guess, in earlier days, but like it's the idea of it is like any of the indies like us, like you just do a tweet, tag Potter and Family, and then someone who sees that will retweet it with the hope that the idea is that you retweet anyone who does that and they do it for you. That's how I met a lot of people originally. And then like I started in 2013 and then just kind of kept going for a while. But then that's eventually why Bree and we have this thing called Let's Chat Club, kind of the same thing. It's like we started meeting all these like people kind of coming new to it and being like, well, it's because you gotta find your tribe, because that's really what it all comes down to, and having like this stuff. And then Bree and I Bree came up with this. It's like, oh, this is such a good way to get for us to like just to meet all the people doing the thing we love, and then audiences share each other. That's always the best.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
Twitter is a really good community for that. I like so far with our experience in the almost 9 months that we've been around, actually 8 months that we've been around. Everyone in Twitter seems like more of a community rather than like trying to tear each other down. Like we actually help each other build your audiences. But speaking of, like I know you mentioned you guys try to go and collab with other shows. Do you have a specific guest that you want to have someday? Like who's your dream guest to have on your show playing characters?
I mean, any of those improv here. Dr. Ken's one, just because
Ken Jeong?
he
Ken
did
Jeong.
that. Yeah.
Yes,
He's
Went
awesome.
from being a practicing doctor to comedy, and so
Thanks to The View.
yeah, someone
of all
who's
things.
walked that line. He's what?
Okay.
He was like on like he won that thing on The View, America's Funniest Doctor,
Oh,
and that was like his
yeah.
and like
Oh, I didn't even know that.
yeah,
I didn't know that
because
either.
I was like, how the fuck does someone do that? But I was like, oh, but yeah, same good. Comedy guy by night, doctor by day,
Yeah.
and then it happened.
He's still
Yeah.
the best
And that's-
character in Community.
Yeah. Oh my god. Yeah.
So that aside from him, I mean, we would
I mean,
obviously we're like
I've said even you mentioned Sean Clements before, or his co-host Hayes
I was gonna
Davenport
say the same
would
thing.
be huge for either of us. And we've debated like, are we like cool enough to ask them yet? Because that's the big thing, is that I'm pretty sure they're gonna make fun of us the whole time, and I'm gotta be okay
That'd be
with
awesome,
my heart
though.
being able to
Shoot
take
your
that.
shot.
I want that more than
Oh.
anything. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so like
But it also might be crushing. So it's, you know, I'm waiting for when we can try to bother them and get one of them on the show.
I think you could bother them. Like,
Yeah.
because the Let's Chat with Chris Revel, which is all part of our umbrella of Let's Chat Media, is guest base and I think I just interviewed Chris Gethard, that came out on Monday. So
nice.
like,
That's awesome.
Yeah, I saw that.
so the same thing, and I'm still like, ask everyone, and you get so fucking surprised who says yes. Like I've now been fortunate. I've done it for like almost like 7 years, and I've gotten to talk. I'm still like, I'm like, why did you say yes? So it's go for it. I swear to God.
Well,
That's like
Speaking
a
of
big
which-
issue. Oh, go ahead.
Well, it just happens. So I do send a lot of DMs out trying to see who I can get. And one guy we got, well, for one thing, this week we have a guest who he was on Improv for Humans, and Adam Macias, I think is how you pronounce his name. Anyway, he was great. I love this week's episode, but there's that, and then
Not Adam
the
McKay,
the
right?
bigger guest, Adam.
Yeah, the director of
MACIAS.
Vice was on as our podcast.
Director of Vice. That's right. MACIAS. I feel bad for not. We don't really go by last names on the podcast so much, except for me.
Sure.
In any case, a different guy we also got was Emmy nominated writer on all 5 seasons of Key and Peele, Charlie Sanders, who has the podcast Bald Talk with Brian Husky. So that episode comes out, I think, a week from Monday, maybe 2 weeks, somewhere in there. It's coming out soon. So
you know who's a good person
super
to ask?
super nice.
Michael Price. He co-creator of F is Family. He's a longtime Simpsons writer. I interviewed him, but he's a big.
Oh, great.
He does a lot of the indie podcasts. Super nice guy. I think it's one of the things I always love doing is like either like I like to have like a big name, like, or you find someone who has a very small part in something like really big. Like I interviewed someone when The Force Awakens came out who had like they were in it for like maybe 6 seconds, but Star Wars. Or then you like, and then that guest you get guests.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, it's so fun. Oh, and that's one of the things we kind of with the club too. Like all of us kind of trade guests and networking, and at some point you just know people. I don't know if you have experienced this. Well, the podcast community is like the nicest people I've ever met. Everyone is so ready to take their shirt off, like for it, just like the shirt off their back to help you out. Like it's I've made friends. Like I now know people who are like internet friends with Ken Jeong, and obviously I don't know him, but I'm just like, He's like, yeah, if I can share his contact, I definitely will. Obviously, there's like a respect level. Like, I get it, but it's just so weird how nice people are. And like, John and I have never even met in real life, but like we're friends. And like all of us, like most of my friends now, people I've never actually met. But like,
me and Cameron are apparently neighbors.
That is cool.
Yeah,
as well. Yeah,
we can probably stand on the same street someday and be like, we talked before.
How close are you really? Like
no, like literally, we can stand probably in the same area and we can wave at each other. Somehow.
We use the same Taco Bell. We just talked about that.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yep.
Use it like it's a utility.
I mean,
well, it was handy when there was a little snow apocalypse here, like a few months back.
We both get water out of the same well.
That is so funny. Oh, I love that. Yeah, I'm a big fan of that. That's cool. You got someone from Improv for Humans. Wait, I'm sorry. And you're the Key and Peele writer. I love talking to TV writers because no one ever asks the writers. They're always the nicest people because they're just like, finally, because then you find out no one in their life thinks they're cool, even though Key and Peele is like the gold standard.
Oh yeah. No, like the most famous. I will say we didn't like talk. It like the fun thing about the podcast is like it's only the like we will hang out for a little bit, but it's a lot of I didn't want to waste his time. I don't want to waste anyone's time. So it's a lot about we all kind of get into this world that we all know, which is making stuff up, being a character, and you're jumping into a character. So it's I don't know, like it's not an interview about this writer's experience. It's well, essentially it turned into, to some extent, him interviewing us, but no spoilers.
It's play. It's so fun. That's really cool.
That is. So you mentioned going almost 100 episodes. I'm trying to look ahead in the future over here. Episode 150 comes out in the future.
Yeah.
Where do you envision Jock Doc Podcast? Like, what do you see?
Let's see. That'll be this fall. I am wondering where we're going to go from. Okay, it would be next year. Yeah.
You're not kidding about the numbers thing.
Look.
Oh yeah, 50.
No, I'm not a pharmacist, man.
You're a
pharmacist questions.
I should have just said episode 106.
You want to give me some pills?
Gotta...
You want to push pills on me? Because I can't count those. That's not my job. I put it in a computer. Like, someone else does it. Huh? Look, I'm not a pharmacist. I can't emphasize this enough. All I do is keep the person alive, but I tell them what to take, but I don't do that. If they give me a piece of paper, do the math for me, pharmacist. That's just not my thing. But yeah, sometime in the fall, possibly next year. We will.
Cameron's so unfazed.
Cameron being a classic, he was like, yeah, that's going to be next year.
Yep, whatever it is. Get together, drlovensmith.com.
We're still in talks about when that episode will come out, but
still negotiations
right
to
now,
figure out when is going to happen.
Like,
well, we can't. Dr. Lennon can't be wrong about this one. We have to make him right about this. 150 has to come out in the fall now.
What if you go on a hiatus just
to mess with it
after like 6 months, just to make sure?
No, we'd have to go. If to do it this fall, we'd have to double up. We'd have to start recording 2 episodes a week.
And I noticed the math problem in that very moment as well. So who's laughing now?
Wow.
So I know.
That's awesome.
This is where I reveal all of you that I'm a math teacher. I'm not.
Yeah. Samesies. But where do we see ourselves roughly in approximate?
Just turn into a job interview.
150. Yeah. Well,
where do you see?
So we just recorded episode 103. That was our most recent recording. So we've already. What I'm currently wondering is where do we go from there? Because we really set a lot of things up in episode 100, and it's, to be clear, every episode is standalone, but we brought in just a lot of new elements that we are going to have to deal with every episode, and reintroduce and deal with every episode. So it's fun, but we want to give ourselves little creative challenges. So 150, I'm glad that I do not know yet, and we probably won't know until possibly we sit down to record. Like, I think we had like 10 minutes of talking beforehand, maybe 20 minutes of discussing what we were going to try to do for that episode beforehand.
Yeah.
What if you quit?
That's true. Like for our 100th episode, we had one of London's close friends, Jake, who's been a frequent guest on the show, on as a couple characters. And yeah, we introduced like a new aspect to the show that we decided on 2 minutes beforehand.
Yeah.
That now that we're
and it's
stuck
once
with,
again,
so
yeah, going to one of the things that we're a big fan of, especially with Hollywood Handbook, which is the fake advertisements, that kind of thing. Podcast networks and all that. We get into that kind of sort of bigger picture stuff episode. So anyway, just a little plug for that 100th episode coming up.
So
but I mean, I think
150.
I think 150. I mean, hopefully, it's the same thing, but with more people listening. I would say that's probably the most realistic.
And with
answer.
Sean and Hayes as the guests, and they've been the guests for the last maybe 40 episodes at that point.
And they start just taking over the show, and then we can just finally retire and be done with it.
Well, yeah, because if, depending on when we release the 150th, which could, it could easily be this fall, it could be next year. I could be in residency once again, so I might have to step away. And so it'd be good to let them take over and teach the medical lessons. And I guess Sean, I believe, has a history in that area to a very small degree. So I'd love to pass that on to him.
Yep, we're just going to give it to them, and that's their responsibility now. And so now they have 8 podcasts a week that they have to make.
I would love that to be like, hey, be a guest on my show, and by the way, it's yours now.
It's yours, so just go ahead and take it over, and I'm going to leave. And if you don't do it, I'm going to be really mad.
I'm
going to be so mad. Yeah, I'll be crossed.
He'll write you the wrong prescription with the wrong numbers.
Yeah. Which, I mean,
this episode 100 drop.
Yeah.
Wait, what'd you say, Rebel?
What's up?
When does episode 100 drop?
Let me hold on. This week's episode is 95, so
5 weeks from now,
roughly 5 weeks from now is my guess.
Nice. That's.
If I had to guess,
I'd a lot. Yeah, it is.
May 11th, I believe. What was that?
What are you guys at with Dumbfound Dead? What are you at now? 30?
We're at 32. We just released 32 plus technically 39 because we did bonus episodes.
Have you guys lost any episodes yet?
What do you mean lost episodes?
Like literally physically lost it. Like
I kept it in my pockets and it was next to the implants. Yeah.
I've had computers crash on me. I've had people not send me their audio. Before my daughter was born, I banked up 7 episodes, and before I could back them up, I lost 7 episodes.
Oh wow, dang!
I know.
There was one episode where my audio was shot, but
I've had that.
I didn't care. I was like, you know what? We're not going to record because then otherwise you're not going to get the real version of what we just said. So you're just going to have to hear it, even though it's muffled, but it's there.
I think I've released 234, but I would say there's at least 20 episodes that I've lost over the years. I've actually done ones where people didn't send, like back in the day, earlier, like we would record on Skype, and they would record their own side and then have the person not send me their audio, and
yeah,
we hound them about
energy
that.
We put into that.
Yeah.
Thankfully things have gotten a little easier. So, I'm still mad about that.
One time we had a guest who their audio was just so bad, and I usually am pretty thorough about it, making sure that because we're in my mind we're competing against Comedy Bang Bang, and for any listeners to this that don't have the video, I am doing the quotes there. So I'm imagining that we're against this nicest audio equipment, and so I want to be at least decent, and so one time we threw away the guest portion and just did an episode without a guest instead. And like that has happened before. And I'm trying to think if that's happened more. Oh yeah, we have another guest, a friend of ours, Apocalypse Tips, that one we said we'd be on next week. That that host was on our podcast, and we had 2 separate recordings that we had to throw it all away, or throw away the guest portion. Yeah, it was just his audio, something messed up with his recording. And so twice we did it, but
that's
nice
happened
guy.
to both of us at least once, like where one of us has like forgotten to start recording or something, but we've caught it while recording. Like we've done the whole thing before, but we've at least caught it that evening, and we're able to fix it like right after
or redo it.
I always write down hit record because of how many times I forgot to hit record or someone else forgot to hit record. And then the worst is like 40 minutes in, they're like, oh, I forgot to hit record. Can we start over? I'm like, this is all before I had like kids or a daughter. So like I had more time, but now I'm like, no, man, you get like, that's it. I got like 2 hours of free time a day at max. So like, that's it.
Yeah.
If it's lost, it's lost. But pre-kids, I was able to do that stuff.
I do want to say, though, London is making it sound like everyone who's on the podcast has like really nice audio equipment. That is not true. Lots of people just use their gamer headsets or whatever. But mic tech is like good enough where like a lot of gamer headsets or whatever are perfectly fine to record with. And we've had a lot of great success with that. Like these mics in general are $40. Like these are pretty cheap mics, and it's just such a huge difference versus just recording off of your phone or off of your laptop mic, which is what we've run into a couple times.
Yeah, I need to get I have a USB mic right now because my Shure SM57, my mixer died, but I'm looking to get like one of those like Zoom mics, but they're like $300.
Yeah,
but I got to do it. Well, we're trying to make the show. I'm going to make the show pay for it. So that's the goal.
Right. Yeah. Speaking of which, we do have a Patreon as well.
It's true.
That's got it's the nice thing about that is that's where we actually basically just do improv, because we drop the whole medical premise. Anyway, wanted to throw that out there, but jockdocpodcast.com has everything.
We put your side. Oh, that's so smart. Yeah, Patreon. That is a classic. We just set up a buy me coffee because we have that. I'm bad at I'm really bad at asking people to give us money. That's
same. We talked about this. I'm like, I have issues with that.
I had to get someone else to come involved. Be like, okay, all right, Brian. I'm better at helping.
What I like about myself. That's what I like about like the Patreon model, though, is that like it's usually not just, hey, give me $5 for whatever. It's, for our Patreon, we put out an episode just for the Patreon every 2 weeks. So like you get bonus stuff for it, it's not just like donate to us. So that I was able to come to terms with that just because we're giving them something, we're creating something.
Hey, does that count towards your numbers though, your bonus episodes? Because that might have moved your timeline even more to the 150. Were you including bonus?
Oh, good point. Whew.
No, those are separate numberings, London. I know that's difficult for you to keep track of.
But if we have to, I'm just saying, if we have to do it, in order to get the dates to where I want them, because now I'm really thinking that maybe 150 of them September, October, that'd be really good. Yeah,
you'd really help London out.
Yeah, round it out. Yeah, round out the numbers.
And we'll talk about this at our next meeting. And this is going to be, when should the 150th come out? Because 100th was easy, but I just didn't know that. I hadn't thought about when to schedule the 150th, and I should be thinking ahead. That's irresponsible of me to letting it just happen.
I mean, that's only in 47 episodes, Dr. London.
Yeah, I know.
It's a big number.
You're telling me that's a pharmacist kind of number.
Jesus.
Yeah, that's
a lot of pills.
Biggest,
you could do some damage on.
Yeah, it is.
Biggest number I've ever heard of.
Yeah.
I feel like if you stick with it, like if you really want to, like I like your show feels like very Earwolf or like Headgum, like I feel like if that's your route, I feel like you guys could definitely do it.
Well, I will say I have asked them and they have not responded. But if they're watching this, we're open to that. I guess we're open to being on those networks with Office Ladies and Conan.
Shoot your shot.
If you're a famous comedy network and want to have us, please contact us. That would be awesome. I don't think there's any arguments against that.
You can have a
I'm trying to learn how to
sure.
do that too. Like, I want to make that like my job. Like, I'd have a friend of a friend connected me to like a producer. Like, they sell shows to networks. I'm like, how do you? I'm just starting to kind of learn how you do that and be like, because I was like, I want to sell my show and other people's shows, and I want to leave my job and do that instead because it sounds so much better. So I'm gonna keep you in my back pockets. Once I learn, I feel like now it's kind of probably like
thank you.
Like in music, like back when I grew up in like the punk scene in Connecticut, where like a band at some point like a band would have to sell 10,000 records before they can even get signed to the label. I think that's what podcasting is now. Like, we got to build an audience. We have to do all of the gosh darn grunt work, and then maybe a label or a network might take a peek at us. Like,
I think the equivalent now is like social media engagement. Like, a label's not going to touch you unless you have like X amount of followers or whatever.
Or you're like verified. You got that blue check mark.
These numbers are, and like, and I have friends and interview people who are on like some of the bigger networks, and from my understanding, like Jamie and Caitlin from the Bechdel cast had told me that I'm I forgot how they worded it, but grossly romanticizing what it's like to be on iHeartMedia. Because in my head, I'm like,
I'm sure
you got a Rolls Royce and you're just living in a pool. Like, that was something I didn't learn until probably I started getting really into comedy podcasts. Like, I used to have this idea that if you're on TV or if you have like an award that you're really rich, and then you're like, oh, I'm sure if you're having this too, like you're interviewing people with Emmys and like they live in 1-bedroom apartments. Like,
I've always been surprised at like the inconsistency of it. Like, someone who has multiple Emmys can be broke, and then someone who was in like 2 McDonald's ads will be set for like a decade.
Yeah, like you got the guy
kind of like
yes, like oh my god, I remember one time having an argument with someone because they were Doug Benson was on At Midnight, and they're like, oh, he's got to be a millionaire. I'm like, I don't know his finances, but Doug Benson is not a millionaire. I mean, maybe, hopefully he is, but like, I don't think an appearance on At Midnight. I had that same thing. I remember the first time interviewing someone who had.
He'll get those Friends royalties. He was on a single episode of Friends for like 30 seconds. So
yeah, it might have been that industry has changed. Like, those days might be gone because you do hear those stories of like people you've never, like a friend of mine, not a friend, but someone I used to work with at Starbucks when we were friends at the time. His brother was an actor in LA, but like not famous. He's just like one of those guys who's in a couple of things. The same thing. He had like royalties from some old school contract that doesn't exist anymore, where he was like in a movie that no one ever heard of that gets played on AMC at 3 a.m, and he paid his rent for that for years, and that doesn't exist anymore. And how do we all get our names on something that gets us a lot of money?
Because I want in on that. So
we're looking for the money truck here.
Yeah. I'm hoping that this doctor thing pays off at some point. I heard that it's supposed to.
Yeah.
So far, it's it's not quite there, but
yeah, you picked the two fields with the least amount of success ratio: doctor and podcast.
Yeah, yeah, and I'm excited to really enter into this thing and dig into the lack of success and really mark my place in the lack of successful world. So. That's what I'm holding on to now.
That's why we're starting the Jock Doc restaurant, because of how easy it is to start a new restaurant and to get that going.
That's right. We're trying to branch into what we thought is like sounds great for a second.
Yeah.
Bitcoin.
And then you think for I think for a second 10 years ago, Bitcoin would have been a great idea. Now I'm less
secure.
I feel
when
less
we were
great
too
about
busy
it.
with the Jock Doc podcast CrossFit.
CrossFit really didn't work out.
Right.
Yeah, we were too busy with that.
Yeah.
So
I know.
Technically it did work out, but not financially.
That is fair.
Yeah.
Valid. Yeah.
Well, I know we start kind of wrapping it up. Ken Jeong is like super active on Twitter. I feel like, and there's like a huge amount of community podcasts that popped up when it came to Netflix. And a lot of the cast members and writers of Community go on those podcasts, and I'm friendly with a couple of those people. I feel like if you play your cards right, I bet you can get Ken Jeong down the road.
Yeah, I definitely hope to. I was and this is just a little thing to throw in here at the end. I was supposed to be on a show with him, and then pandemic hit. That's how close I got to this point. But
are you allowed to talk about what you were going to be on?
You're going to be on Dr. Ken?
Yeah, probably. I signed a contract. I was going to be on I Can See Your Voice, and
yeah, so it's like that Fox show that was
the one
sort of a vague,
right?
Yeah, that's like hosted by Dr. Ken. Is that right?
Yeah,
yeah.
Which
I was
is
London,
like a dumb show, but it's really fucking awesome.
They were set to fly him out, and then the pandemic hit, and they were like, "We're going to only get local people." Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I
want to ask you. Said you were a child actor. Were you in anything that we would have seen?
Yeah.
Was it like theater?
Sorry, that you would have seen. So I was in a Pepsi commercial once. I was in a pizza commercial. It was a little old lady who lived in a shoe pizza commercial. On Amazon Prime Video right now, as well as YouTube, because that's where I uploaded it, is Undercover Kids, a movie I starred in. I am on the cover. And let's see, there's also on YouTube. Yeah, Undercover Kids. And I think the cover is me on a scooter. Yes, I think so.
It's sort of like, what if Spy Kids didn't have all the stuff going on? Like any special effects, you know?
Or go anywhere exotic.
Yeah, there you are, Priscilla Smith. I don't. Is that person have like a snake, or is it a burqa? I'm looking at the cover.
I believe that they are ninjas of some kind, or trying to be.
It's like borderline problematic.
Yeah, and a lot of things in those days were, and I'm glad to be associated with something that is borderline problematic, especially in comedy when it's so easy to avoid being canceled. So there's that. There's also on YouTube. There's a movie that I wrote at the same age as that poster. A movie that I wrote, directed, and starred in called Not It. That's on YouTube. It's like it's a short film, like 10 minutes or something. And I do write. Yeah, funny. I heard how easy. I heard it was like a restaurant, just really easy to get into.
You're Undercover Kids. Robert Rodriguez.
I know.
I was going to call you next.
And I can't help but think. Yeah, I can't help but think. I also won the Young Artist Award in the Austin Film Festival for Not It. That's my mom still brags about that. She's a little heavier on the bragging about the doctor thing now, but it took a while to get anything else going. That might be a shock. It takes a while to be a doctor.
Child actor.
But child actor was and I said for a long time that I didn't have any improv training, and then my mom was like, well, no, you had a lot. You just that's just kind of how I was raised. I had acting classes and all that. So that's I thought it was all natural, but no, it is. It's like being trained in as a little child creature. Yeah.
I have a pitch, and I'm 100% serious. This is not a bit. What would you like? What if we teamed up? Like we could do like our podcast crossover. John, obviously you're coming to get our friends. We do a virtual live streaming of Undercover Kids with you, and we all just fucking roast it, and a free event.
I would love to.
I'm not even kidding.
We've talked about this.
So fun.
We've talked about this to some. Cameron and I have done this before.
If London meets someone, I would say within 10 minutes, Undercover Kids and an offer to watch Undercover Kids with him commentating on it is offered. I would say that's probably accurate.
Let's keep it on the road. I'm not even kidding.
I waited. I'm also not kidding.
We can do this.
I'll do it. I'm game.
Should totally do this.
You're describing a fantastic evening.
Yeah, there's a website. We did when the show turned 7. We did a watch party with Sia Live, and it was like actual camera. It was the best way to do it because you could actually see and talk and interact with people. And but we did Spider-Verse because we wanted to watch a good movie. I mean, Undercover Kids looks great. I'm so sorry. It could be amazing.
Yeah, and
I haven't seen it. I don't know.
You want to read all the reviews. The YouTube comments, unfortunately, are no longer allowed on the children's videos. Otherwise, you could see a lot of great stuff that people said about it, and that I personally replied to. Which, oh man, I need to Yeah, I don't know where I would post it, but I need to post those screenshots. I still have them, I think.
John, are you down?
In any case, yes, I am.
I'm in. Anytime I get to roast somebody,
No.
which I do on a weekly basis anyways, I'm in.
I feel like we could probably even do it like on here, because I don't think YouTube would shut us down for that, because I doubt the copyright machines are looking for undercover kids unless Warner Brothers owns them.
It's lasted this long. And we put it up a few years. It's once again, it's on Prime, like a paid service. It's on there already, and somehow YouTube has not
Amazon Watch
cracked
Party.
the whip on us.
On Twitch. Bam, right there.
Oh yeah, that's probably more legally helpful.
Yes.
Yeah, this is probably gonna get us busted up, honestly.
I hate having good ideas, because then it's like, I don't have a lot of time, but yeah, we have to make this happen.
Yeah. And one thing I should also add as an offer from our end, if either of you come up with characters that you think would be fun, that you would imagine on a comedy Bang Bang type show, we'd love to have you on.
Oh my God. Yes.
Either or both, I
Awesome,
should say. Yeah. That's
I'd recommend John. He's much funnier.
I'm a believer in like our old friends from high school being funny people who, if we get a mic in front of them and they know how to use it and not sound bad, then they can come up with funny stuff as much as anyone else.
Oh yeah, no, we're definitely gonna take you up on that.
Obviously, you guys
I got dibs on being a foreign kid, so that's easy for me to do.
No, we should do the opposite. You should be like the straight white male who's just like overly confident, and I should be like Fez on that 70s show. They don't even bother giving him the name, because that's how unimportant.
Well, if you're gonna be Fez, you got to wear a Tad Nugent shirt. Shirt.
Yeah, we should do the complete opposite. You should be like, I'm a white male senator, and I can, and just be an area, and then I can just be like a perfectly model citizen and is being harassed. Oh, this took a turn.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's as Cameron said, I have to find these guests, and it's a lot easier if we get people that we already know are, we've talked to you for over an hour now, and
Yeah, no, Cameron, our neighbor. We're neighbors.
So
like
you guys are already gonna be hanging out.
I'll send you. You guys would be awesome for our Let's Chat Club too. I'll send you some afterwards. You guys, our little crew, but I really want to roast this movie. Sure. There's nothing more fun than roasting children and actors with the person who's actually in it, at least, so it's not creepy.
Yeah.
Well, and the other Smith in the movie is his sister, so you've got tons of inside info.
Yeah. What if we treat it like a real what we should do it but actually treat it seriously, you remember that's how I love that Third Rock from the Sun, that humor where it's just so over the top that we should treat this as if we're watching Gone with the Wind for the first time.
It's a prestige film.
I love your choices with the ninja.
But before podcasts, Cameron and I did once watch the full movie, and Cameron played as the director and I played as myself, and Cameron just kept on making directors type comments about the scenes and whatever. So that sounds pretty, if we wanted to do it pretend that we're doing the actual DVD commentary.
Oh, they do an inside the actor studio afterwards.
Yeah.
Dr. London, what were you thinking?
These are different ways to play it, potential.
Yeah. Do you ever watch the George Lucas talk show?
No.
Yeah, I've watched that.
Yeah, it's like that. It's really funny. Excellent. Where can people find you online? This was way too much, but my edibles are starting to kick in. That's usually my cue to wrap it up.
JockDocPodcast.com is where all the episodes are and links to all our social media. And I think on all social media, it's just in the Patreon, the twitter.com/JockDocPodcast, except for TikTok is different, right, Dr. London?
TikTok is, Dr. London Smith, Dr. London Smith. And then Pinterest is also Dr. London Smith. And that is because DJ Dylan at one point said, check out Dr. London's, TikTok or his Pinterest. And then I had to make it. That's
so no
part
one else
of
can have it.
Yeah.
The humor of this is he throws obligation upon me.
Oh, I love this. Oh, well, thank you, everyone. John, where can people find you online?
Oh, well, first, thank you, Chris, for always inviting me to be your co-host. And it's a pleasure to meet Cameron and Dr. London. Hopefully we get to work something out pretty soon. But we are the Dumbfounded. We're the Dumbfounded Podcast. If you enjoy Darwin Awards and puns, then you can find us at thedumbfoundedpod.com.
Awesome. You can find all of our Let's Chat Media stuff, which is our other podcast, Let's Chat with Chris Rebel, Let's Chat Podcast.net. Most recent episode was with Chris Gethard. I only say that because it was like a dream come true because I've been such a fan for a long
huge
time.
deal, yeah.
I made the mistake of listening to it afterwards and went down a shame rabbit hole. I'm like, all right, I got to give it a few months. And then maybe everyone else says it's good. I didn't like myself, but everyone else.
See, that's why I don't want the Hollywood Handbook guys on just as much as I do want them on, because I'm gonna let them down. I'm so afraid of it.
I know that feeling.
It's that imposter syndrome, man. That's what gets all of us.
I still have my therapist. It's like, what's the worst that could happen? You're like, they'll say yes. Like, it's like, why? I've never asked Conan on my podcast. I don't think he would do it, but if he said yes, I'm like, I can't handle that pressure, dude.
Too much. Yeah, please reject me.
I literally had like not panic attacks, but I was on pins and needles for the 3 days leading up to the Chris Gethard interview. Like, you know, when the more you care about something, I knew I knew I was gonna kill it. Like, I had the confidence, but I was so scared. And sometimes, like, emotionally, you can't handle it when they say yes because you're like, oh, now I have to like work.
Yeah.
You know? It's hard.
Yeah,
like,
when
you actually want to do good.
When we had Charlie Sanders on, he's, you know, Emmy nominated, writer for Key and Peele, like very connected, has a podcast with Brian Husky. So we were like, for one thing, paid up for a Zoom subscription for the month. Yes. And I was like, okay. And trying to reassure myself, like, it's the same, it's all the same stuff. Like, it's just improv. And so it's not going to be, it's nothing crazy. It's what we know. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Oh, excellent. Thank you so much. If anyone's still watching, I'll actually end this, or we'll just talk for 6 hours.